How many times have you heard someone say, why not just go down to Antarctica? The Antarctica tree is not stopping you. I mean, nobody's really guarding it. Why not just get in a ship and head down there? Nobody's going to stop you. Or, you know how many resources it would take to guard an ice wall that's 50 to 60,000 miles around in circumference. You would need 70,000 ships and 50,000, aircraft and 100,000 military personnel. We're going to find out today that that's just simply not the case. They don't need any of those resources. They need a few ships and a few aircraft, but we're going to find out that there's an infrastructure that's set in place that's pretty simple and pretty straightforward that basically prevents anybody from going below the 60th latitude. Things such as tsunami buoys that they use with uh, water displacement to be able to track people that go past the 60th latitude or get near the 60th latitude. They can basically detect motion and waves throughout the ocean, and these are all set up on the NOAA website. And there is thousands of these throughout the Southern Ocean, and they've been using these for years. In maritime and war, and it's something that's always been around for many decades. So that's one of the ways that they can easily prevent people from going beyond the 60th parallel. There's also no-fly zones, so you wouldn't be able to fly over that area. And we're going to find out also today just how quickly they can track somebody that's flying in a no-fly zone, and how quickly they can easily just track you down and turn you around. But let's go ahead and get an idea of how this area is protected and how it's actually laid out. And we're going to go ahead and start looking at some of the ways that they protect the 60th latitude down to the coast of Antarctica. Next, we're going to look at a couple of different ships here. The first one is the Navy warship that generally patrols the 60th latitude. So if you somehow get beyond the 60th latitude, they will basically track you down and escort you to turn back around. Then the second line of defense is these Royal Navy icebreaker ships. They will generally be located between the 70 and 80th degree latitudes, where a lot of the sea ice is. So if you're somehow able to get beyond these Navy warships, these Royal icebreaker ships will be pretty much waiting for you by the sea ice. Now, you have to understand that even if you're able to get beyond these Navy warships, you got 5 to 6 feet deep worth of ice covering hundreds of miles of ocean water that you'd have to break through to even get to the ice wall. And even then, you have to be able to transport your equipment up this 150-foot tall ice wall to get onto the land of Antarctica. And even then, Antarctica is hundreds, if not thousands of miles of just icy wilderness. It's an ice desert. So it's next to impossible to independently explore Antarctica. But let's take a look at what the actual 60th latitude is on a globe model. This is what the 60th latitude line would be around Antarctica. This is where the Navy warships will generally be located, and will track you down if you get beyond that 60th latitude line. The next one is the 70 to 80 degree latitudes, which is closer to the Antarctica coast. This is where a lot of the sea ice is going to be located at. And again, this is where the HMS Royal Navy icebreaker ships are going to be patrolling. So even if you get past those Royal Navy ships, you still have to deal with the second line of defense of these Royal Navy ships. So with that being said, we can actually take this map and we can invert it onto an azimuthal equidistant map. And we can obviously see the flat model here with Antarctica being the ice ring around the Earth. This would be the 70 and 80 degree latitude where the icebreaker ships would be at. So you can kind of see the general infrastructure of how these ships patrol the 60th to the 80th latitude and the Antarctica coast. So let's go ahead and check out some of these Royal Navy icebreaker ships.
Navy, or I should say, the U.S. Coast Guard, has two active polar-capable icebreakers, the medium icebreaker Healy and the heavy icebreaker Polar Star. Healy can break ice up to 4.5 feet deep, while Polar Star can break ice up to 21 feet thick. But what are these ships doing in these hostile and hard-to-reach regions of the world? American polar icebreakers have been involved in a variety of missions. Their primary mission is the support of Operation Deep Freeze, which is a United States scientific expedition to Antarctica, and more specifically, McMurdo Station, the largest scientific base located on Ross Island. These icebreakers break through 6 to 14-foot thick fast ice, that's the ice attached to the coastline, in order to create a channel. This channel is used by a fuel tanker and a cargo ship to deliver goods to McMurdo Station, usually once a year. The scientists and other personnel who work at McMurdo fly there using military cargo aircraft that are equipped with skis. This annual fuel, food, and cargo delivery to McMurdo Station is critical in keeping this scientific mission alive, which is why the icebreakers play such a vital role. But in addition to opening the shipping channel, the polar icebreakers also conduct scientific experiments of their own used for heavy icebreaking. What a fog bow! Well, I'm not swearing. I'm talking about that fog bow over there. It's like a rainbow, but with fog. And because the fog droplets are so much smaller than rain droplets, it looks white instead of being multicolored. Maybe fog bow should be a swear word. But what allows icebreakers to break through thick ice is how they use all that power. Many icebreakers feature a distinctive spoon-shaped bow, which is built with a toughened hull and internal frame. The curved bow allows the icebreaker to slide and ride up on the thick ice, and then the ship's enormous weight cracks through it. The portion of the hull designed to break the ice is 1 3/4 inch thick in the bow and the stern sections, which is 2 to 3 times thicker than the hull of a commercial ship. Modern icebreaker hulls are also coated with a slippery layer of resin to reduce friction with the ice. A really neat feature of Polar Star's propellers is that they have controllable pitch. So while the shaft continues to turn in the same direction, by changing the pitch of the propellers, the power and direction of thrust generated by the propellers can be changed dynamically. Icebreakers mostly operate independently and in remote areas, which necessitate...
Now, I was just showing 2 of the icebreaker ships from the U.S. And the U.S. Coast Guard. But as previously shown in the video earlier, there's also the Royal Navy icebreaker ships from the UK and Europe. And actually, if you look closely enough on the previous video, they showed one of the ships actually had a Canadian flag on it. So it just shows you that these ships are these icebreaker ships are from all different regions and different countries and continents, and they're all doing their collaborative part in patrolling the sea ice in the 70 to 80th degree latitudes around the Antarctica coastline. So it just shows you that there's a infrastructure that's worldwide in patrolling these waters and area around Antarctica. Now that we have a general idea of how the framework and infrastructure works with these icebreaker ships, let's go ahead and take a look and see what happens when you get too close to the 60th degree latitude and run into one of these Navy warships in maritime waters.
Hobart, you are in a maritime exclusion area. Please report your intentions.
Fishing.
Who the fuck's that?
We're heading to the shelf to go.
Just say we're out fishing. Heading out fishing. No, we're just heading out fishing.
We've all come through this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Send the diggies out, boys. They're gonna find the
This
water.
is warship over. You are authorized to recommend that you exit the area immediately.
We're going that
We're
way.
just traversing.
Is there a helicopter coming at us now?
Are we late? I don't know. What
Just
is the
travel,
mission
just
zone
go.
here?
Just go.
He sent out the chopper.
That's a drone. Is it?
That's unreal.
Oh my god, look at them all. They're all looking at us. Did you just not do the fucking captain flow? They're waving at us.
Shaka, brah. I reckon they're just like fucking with us.
What the fuck was that about?
Yes.
We got too close to him.
He got close to us.
We stopped, and it's all on film. We stopped well short of him. We stopped about a couple of K out.
Bad boys, is that you?
Yes.
International.
This is warship over. What is your order for origin?
We're going to go to Bass Basin. Over.
No, Port of Origin, Lakes Entrance.
Oh, sorry, we're going down to Lake
Give us
Hill.
that.
Track these ships that get beyond the 60th latitude is by a variety of different ways. They use dart buoys, tsunami buoys. They use trip lines, which have been discovered in declassified documents by the 60th latitude. They've also used SOSUS and LARP technology that dates all the way back to the Cold War years before the Antarctica Treaty was even in place, which I'll get into later. But for now, we'll focus on these tsunami buoys, which create signals for when there's water displacement, and these signals get sent back to whatever region is patrolling that area, and from there they will send out a ship vessel to that region where that signal is coming from the water displacement. So we're going into more details on how exactly this water displacement works with these tsunami buoys.
Harbor here, we're approximately here, and they, whatever they are somewhere in the middle. We're trapped out here. What we know right now is we can't target them unless we have a plain line of sight. Without radar, we have no way to track them, correct?
Correct. But I don't think they can see us either,
Why?
because we are still alive.
Okay, so they can't see us and we can't see them, and we have no way to hit them from a safe distance.
There is a way
A way.
of seeing them without seeing them.
You're going to reference Art of War right now, aren't you? What are we supposed to do? Fight the enemy where they aren't? Move like water? Because I've read that thing like 6 times. It makes no sense.
That book is Chinese.
Still makes no sense.
My way is much more simple. We've been doing it to America for 20 years. Water displacement,
How do you track water displacement?
tsunami buoys.
Tsunami buoys.
You have them surrounding your islands, transmitting displacement data. We hack into their transmissions, form a grid.
You can't track anything without radar.
I don't need radar. Just the radio frequencies. Turn off Aegis radar, please.
Who is this guy? Chief Moore.
Sir.
Secure spy.
Security spy, sir.
Display NOAA data.
No idea.
Yes, correct.
You heard him. Display no data.
The hell is that?
It's a buoy. If it gets hit by a wave, it transmits a signal.
Bring up chat plot.
Chart plot. Bring it up.
So we can track without radar. We would practice it as a contingency plan.
Dirty, cheating, sneaky.
Rough world.
I like it. Captain. My chair's your chair, sir.
miles of water displacement. Brother.
That buoy's underwater. That's a ship. Get on your gun.
Sir.
Target, Echo 1-1.
Roger. Echo 1-1. Ready to fire.
When we fire, they will know where we are. Fire!
Orty, anything.
Negative, sir. It's a miss.
It's heading towards
Another
us.
thing I wanted to go over briefly was the Berserk incident that happened back in 2011. It involved Jarls Andahoy and 3 of his crew members. Don't want to get too much into it, but just kind of give you more of an idea of how quickly they can respond to somebody that goes beyond the 60th latitude. But basically, he made a expedition down to Antarctica, and then he decided he wanted to make an expedition to the South Pole. He didn't make it to the South Pole. He only made it about 100 miles in before he got called back on his radio from his crew members that were basically leaving the area that their ship was harbored in, and basically got stuck in a storm. So he had to leave his South Pole expedition and come back to the shore. But there's a lot of conspiracies around it. I'm not going to get too much into all the different theories, but I do want to point out when this ship was this boat vessel was left from the when it basically left harboring from Horseshoe Bay, which was down by McMurdo Station. They had to go search for it, and there was 3 different ships that searched for it, and one of them was the I want to say it was called the Wellington ship from New Zealand. And there was also another ship called the Steve Irwin ship that came from New Zealand. And then there was a 3rd ship called the Spirit of Enderby ship that all traveled down to this area where this boat vessel was supposed to be at. And the Wellington ship from New Zealand basically said that in good conditions, like good normal conditions down there, they would have been able to reach the site where the beacon went off from this other ship vessel. They would have been able to reach that site in about 82 minutes. So that's pretty quick, considering where it's coming from. And it just goes to show you how fast they can track down different ships and sailing vessels that go beyond the 60th latitude. I mean, they can track you down in a little over an hour, and that's assuming you don't get stuck in a bunch of sea ice. And even then, if you get stuck in the sea ice, then you're going to have the icebreaker ships that are going to track you down. So with these tsunami buoys, with them being able to locate where you're at, they can find you pretty quickly. And just to kind of give you an idea of how many ships are actually kind of patrolling that area, I found this map on Yandex. It kind of shows a lot of the ships. You can see there's one here, there's one here. I mean, there's a lot of them. There's probably over 15, 20 ships here that are always around the 60th degree latitude. They're all labeled with each country, and each there's ones from the UK, from the US, from Russia, from Germany, from Japan. There's all these different ships around the 60th latitude, and just in the area they were in, with the Berserk incident, there's 3 different ships there. So, there's the Wellington, the Spirit of Enderby, the Steve Irwin ship, and there's actually probably a 4th ship. There's most likely there's an icebreaker ship there too. So there's about 4 ships just in that location, because that's obviously the location of where the Summer Gate is allegedly supposed to be located. But this just goes to show you that there's a whole array of different ships patrolling that area of Antarctica, and they can, with the location, with the water displacement of these tsunami buoys, they can track you down pretty quick. Um, so, and we're actually going to get into other ways that they've been tracking, ships beyond the 60th latitude for years, even before tsunami buoys and before the Antarctica Treaty. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of the history of different ways that they've tracked ships down by the southern oceans and by Antarctica.
So weird, bro. It's so weird. So like real people discovered that in 45, the government brought people over here in Operation Paperclip from the Nazi regime who were obsessed with Antarctica. 46, they immediately started Operation High Jump and went and explored the Antarctic region. And that went on for a while into the 50s, like 55. We did Operation Deep Freeze, further investigation of Antarctica, leading into the 1957 International Geophysical Year, as the government calls it, where they cooperated with the major nations to put distant early warning system around 55 degrees north latitude, trip lines that show any activity inside of that area. Then also concentrated on the southern region, all just declassified facts. And then in 58, they founded NASA. In 59, they signed the Antarctic Treaty. There were like 12 original countries that signed it, and now it's like 50 something. Every major world country or world superpower, right? So that's weird. They went and explored that region, founded the first American base called Little America after the Nazis were obsessed with it and they brought them over here. Then they said, you can't privately go there. Longest lasting peace treaty in modern history.
Obviously, you can see there was some declassified documents he had mentioned that had a trip lines, an early warning system between the 55 degree and 60 degree latitude that would basically track any vessel that was going beyond that 60th latitude. So we can see this goes back, quite a few years, even before tsunami buoys. And we can even look at some other technology that they had back around the time of the Cold War. They had what was called the Sound Surveillance System, or SOSUS. They also had a long-range acoustic propagation project. This is back from the 60s and 70s. But if we look at this, the SOSUS technology that they had, this kind of discovered towards the end of World War II and started being used during the Cold War. But this technology was developed in under great cloak of secrecy back in the 50s, and it was funded by the Office of Naval Research with AT&T, and they developed the undersea surveillance system to basically surveillance that area of the southern oceans and the 60th latitude by Antarctica. And this was initially as codenamed Project Jezebel, and it was later given a very highly classified name, Sound Surveillance System, or SOSUS. Then after it was unclassified, it was called Project Caesar. With Project Caesar, when we look into that, they actually had what they had called the Caesar cable fleet ships, which were these Navy ships. And this is just from the U.S. This isn't including all the other countries that were using cables to set up this their own long-range acoustic propagation program. But this is just with the U.S. There was several different ships that laid cable for this SOSUS program, and some of these cables, some of these locations required, hundreds of miles between each location, and they had an array of hydrophones that were underwater that could track, sound, acoustic sound, from whether it was on the ocean surface above or submarines in the water. It would track, any kind of ships that were traveling along the water. And during the time of the U.S. when they were using the SOSA system, they had over 30,000 miles of undersea cable and more than 1,000 hydrophones. And this is just with that one region. So it just goes to show you that they've had these surveillance systems in place for, many decades. And they've had, trip lines, and they've had, this is all classified programs that they had in place. So it's been used for a while, even before they had tsunami buoys. They've been able to track people going beyond the 60th latitude. So just wanted to point that out, so you kind of have more of a general history of how long they've been guarding below the 60th latitude. So with that being said, I also want to point out that it's not just the ocean surface that they're guarding, but also the air patrol. And we're going to go ahead and get into how fast they can actually track somebody down that's flying into the no-fly zone of Antarctica. And if you're thinking that Antarctica isn't a no-fly zone, I mean, you can Google it and it'll say that it's not a no-fly zone, and you can fly over it. It's just very impractical to do so. I'm going to show you that that's simply not true, and that Antarctica is actually a no-fly zone. And this was actually pointed out by somebody that recorded one of their search results back from 2016, when they asked if Antarctica was a no-fly zone. And back in 2016, the answer was that Antarctica is a no-fly zone, and it's guarded and protected, and you're not allowed to fly over it. And nobody has ever flown over it. That was the official answer from Google. And then after the algorithm apocalypse and mass censorship of flat Earth happened in 2017 and 2018, Google literally changed its official answer to Antarctica is not a no-fly zone and people fly over it all the time, which obviously they don't. And we've already proved that they don't, that they fake all these north to south circumnavigation flights, and none of them actually ever fly over Antarctica. But they also changed the narrative of it being a no-fly zone. So it just goes to show you that with Google being the mainstream search engine it is, they're never going to tell you the truth about flat Earth or Antarctica there, because they're going to censor everything. So let's go ahead and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with Google changing its answers.
Let's answer your question in 2016. And what I mean by that is I save a lot of things. So luckily in 2016, when I asked Google that question myself, let me show you the answer that it gave me in 2016. Let's look back in my vault here. Here we go. Can we circumnavigate over Antarctica? Since the North Pole and Antarctica are covered in ice and guarded no-fly zones, no ships or planes have ever been known to circumnavigate the Earth north-south directions. March 9th, 2016. That was the Google answer. Now here we are 7 years later. Let's ask Google the same question and see what the answer is that it gives us in 2024. Okay, Google, can we circumnavigate over Antarctica? The same way we asked in 2016. Okay, notice this time this little flat Earth thing pops up here. And then it says polar circumnavigation. Polar circumnavigation is complete navigation around the Earth through both the North Pole and the South Pole. Several parties have successfully done it. Anyways, it says, has anyone circumnavigated the Earth north to south? The first pole-to-pole circumnavigation flight took place in 1965 by modified Flying Tiger Line Boeing 707, carrying 40 scientists, guests, and crew. Okay, now this supposed to took place in 1965, okay, but this didn't show up in 2016 when we searched this on Google, but if you look right down here, this wasn't entered into Google until July the 6th of 2018, after they started flat earth censorship. So let's look up another one real quick. Okay, why is it illegal to fly over Antarctica? Planes can and do sometimes fly over Antarctica. It is not a no-fly zone and it is not illegal. It is just very impractical to do so. So there you go. Once again, the puppet masters at Google have changed the answer to it is not a no-fly zone and it is not illegal. Well, what did you tell us in 2016, Google? Since the North Pole and Antarctica are covered in ice and guarded no-fly zones, no ships or planes have ever been known to circumnavigate the Earth north-south directions.
Flying for miles and miles until...
Okay, we've just entered the no-fly zone now.
Our pilots aren't talking to air traffic control, ignoring their calls to reach them. That triggers an alarm at the Air National Guard base. These fighter pilots scrambling to their jets. They're on alert and ready to take action 24 hours a day. Today, racing to their F-16s, suiting up, climbing on board, and rushing to the runway. Taking off to intercept our rogue Cessna. Reaching the target in just minutes. This is the view from the F-16. That's my Cessna right there.
Whoa! You can actually hear, I don't know if you can hear it on camera, you can hear that fighter jet coming by. I mean, there's no way you don't hear this or notice it.
Coming up on the left side of our plane.
That is as intimidating as you would think it would be. Look at that fighter jet, he's right off our wing.
Another F-16 swooping in on the right, calling us on aviation frequencies.
You have been intercepted. If you hear this transmission, acknowledge the radio call and rock your wing.
He wants us to identify ourselves. We're a rogue aircraft, remember, for this demonstration, so we're not going to respond at all and see what this fighter jet does.
The fighter right on our wing now, scanning us inside.
What is he trying to do?
He's trying to figure out who we are, who's inside, what we're up to.
And he's trying to make radio contact and tell us to do what? Follow him?
That's correct.
The fighters want to escort us out of the area, but we still don't respond. So the F-16 makes a bold move. Swooping in right there. Look at how close he gets.
Whoa, he's crossing right in front of us.
It's called the headbutt maneuver, and you can see why. Watch again. The F-16 crosses right in front, just feet from us. Hard to miss, and that's the point.
That's a pretty aggressive maneuver.
He's just trying to get our attention.
Remember, this is restricted airspace right above the president's vacation home.
You are ordered to turn to the northwest.
The fighter jet giving us one last warning, turning away, hoping we follow. If after all of this, the pilot still won't listen, the plane won't leave the airspace, will you shoot them down?
If required, we'll execute the rules of engagement per the commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command. And yes, we would do that.
Shoot the plane down so they...
It's interesting once you start looking into the different ways that they protect Antarctica and how much effort they put into protecting below the 60th latitude. And it starts to make you wonder, like, you know, why are they putting so much effort into protecting, you know, one allegedly small area of the world? You know, they're protecting this one area more than, you know, Area 51 or Fort Knox, you know, and then you throw in the Antarctica Treaty and the mountains of bureaucracy and legal restrictions, you know, cited in the Antarctica Treaty Handbook. And you start to piece it all together, and any rational, normal thinking person would have to think why are they putting all of this effort in guarding and protecting one little small area of the world? And, I think the reason for that is because they're protecting something in Antarctica, or they're protecting something beyond Antarctica. And I think that there's a small group, there's a handful of people that they know about this true reality of where we live. They know the true reality of Antarctica, and they don't want that getting out to the public. And they've known about this for decades, for many years. And they want to keep us locked into this Truman-like show reality. And they don't want us venturing out and figuring out the true nature, our true earth of where we actually live.
Personally, I think the unconquered south face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but that's never stopped me before. Risk? Of course I'm aware of the risks. Thank you for your concern. I think the biggest stumbling block I'll face on the journey is the loss of my thumbs to frostbite and gangrene. It shouldn't affect the mountain climb itself, but it will make signing autographs virtually impossible.
You're gonna be late.
Okay.